Hey, busy business people. I am here today with another entrepreneur taking action, Heather Lisle. She helps professional service women clarify their messaging and grow their business, and I'm getting the scoop today on how she does it. Okay, so I am really excited about this episode. I'm not going to lie, because we have very similar companies doing very similar things, but for slightly different people. So I think we're going to be
That's
able to
right.
explain to people how, even though your services are similar, you have to pivot them for the people that you're trying to
Yes.
work with to serve them best. So I think it's going to be interesting. I know
Yes.
before this call, you shared with me a story about a career coach that you helped and the transformation you helped her achieve. Can you tell our
Yeah.
audience about that story? Because I think it was so good.
Yeah. Christina, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Um, you know, how I work with my clients is all of my private clients take the DISC assessment, DISC, the DISC assessment, which I'm sure most people have heard of, the Myers-Briggs. I'm sure probably a lot of your listeners have heard of the DISC as well too. But it's such an interesting tool to use because it allows me as their consultant to be able to dig in and figure out their best communication styles with their best perfect client and that kind of thing, and how that client is going to receive their information. So I'm working with this career coach, and she had worked for 25, 30 years in the financial industry with Wells Fargo in California. And, so she's a seasoned professional. Like, this woman knows her stuff when it
Yep.
comes to HR, right? So she moves to the Dallas area, opens up her own executive coaching, career coaching service, that kind of thing. And she and I were talking, it's probably 6 months ago now. She and I were talking, and she was just like, I'm really having a hard time. With my marketing, my messaging, landing with my clients. I'm not getting the results that I want to see. People aren't clicking, to schedule an appointment, blah, blah, blah. And so I asked her, I was like, well, show me your marketing materials. Like, what have you been doing? What do you have? How are you? Of course, she wasn't doing anything digitally. And I was just like, okay, well, we got to change that. Right.
Yep.
But it was so interesting. She handed me like all of these, I'm going to call them just 25-page PDF long documents, like just big old long documents.
Yep.
And and I'm flipping through these documents, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a ton of information. And they were beautifully done. She had hired a graphic design firm to do, spent thousands of dollars doing all of this work.
Yep.
And I asked her the question. I said, because I knew on the disc she was a C, which a C on the disc is someone who is conscientious, someone who requires a lot of data in order to make decisions, very thoughtful, very thorough. That was her. That's her personality. I asked her, I said, so talk to me about your perfect client. Who would be the perfect person that you would want to work with? And she goes, they're C-suite level, they're executives looking to make a transition, move to a different industry, whatever. But, they're going to be executive level people. They make decisions fast, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, that's your problem. Your perfect client is not going to read a 25-page long PDF. Your perfect client is a D on the disc. They're dominant, they're results oriented, they want to get things done quickly. They they're not big into talking about their family and friends. They just want results, and they want it now. And they want
Yep.
bullet points. They're not going to read the big long documents. And so I was just like, I think we need to probably rethink your strategy when it comes to communicating with your perfect client, because you're giving them too much information and it's system overwhelm, and they're not going to buy. They're
Yep.
not going to buy. And so, it was enlightening yet disheartening, because I see this all the time with clients that they spend so much money with graphic design firms and all of the materials and all the things that, if you've worked in the professional world, in the corporate world like I have, I mean, your brain is wired to think that that's what you need to have in order to be successful. And
Yep.
really, the reality is you need to be thinking about who's your perfect client and what are they going to need from me in order to click the buy button, schedule the appointment, whatever the thing is. So I thought that was probably the best example of why it is so important to really have a deep dive and know who you're talking to.
I think there was so much important stuff in that to unpack to like too, because like we're told all the time that for digital marketing you have to create these big lead magnets, which is why everybody
Hmm.
goes and they create ebooks and they create
Yes.
checklists and they create all this stuff, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
do it because you're supposed to, not because they
Right.
actually know how it's going to help someone. So I think that's really powerful. And then you have the sunk cost bias because those things are time consuming to create,
Oh my
whether
gosh.
you're hiring someone else to help you design it or you're trying to sit there with like Canva or Word or whatever and put something together yourself,
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about people whose time for dollars is like anywhere from like 300 to thousands for an hour of
Yeah.
their time. Like I had one client that he would write his own blog articles, for example, and he looked at how long it was taking him and it was like 6 to 8 hours per blog article and he
Oh
charges
my gosh.
$375 for an hour of his time. It was like,
Wow.
okay, look at what you would have to pay me and my team to do it versus what you're paying, because that you're paying that. You might
Right.
not be writing a check
Right.
for it, but you're paying that. And that sunk
Whew.
cost bias, where it's like, well, I've invested in it. This is how I need to make my money back. I've had these 5 PDFs created. I've got to use them to generate leads. It's like, but if that's not the best way, you have to
Yeah.
be able to say, like, okay, that's great. I learned from that, but let's do what's going to work.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like there
No,
was so much to
completely agree.
unpack from that little story and that little moment.
Yeah. Well, there is because again, I do feel like there is so every, every business owner, every professional business owner that I've ever talked to, the first thing that they want to dive into is I need to get my website up. I need to get the logo package done. I need to have somebody develop all these social media posts for me, and they want to be perfectly branded and perfectly curated. And they spend thousands and thousands of dollars. I have a lawyer client that I've worked with for a while now, and it's like she spent almost 10 grand on a website that within 6 months it was completely different. Like we had completely transformed it because the website really, the messaging on her website didn't reflect her brand at all, you know and so we're just so wired to think that, okay, we have to have these things in order for people to find us and to trust us and to think that we have pretty material and that kind of thing. And it's just like, oh, no, 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 no. People just want a result, and they want you to help them achieve that. That's it, you know?
Yeah, there's so much truth to that. Like I was talking with one lady that's a life coach and she had been a life coach in the past and had done okay, but she kept trying to do the digital marketing thing, struggling to get leads. So she had stepped away from it and was really wanting to go back. That was what she really enjoyed doing. And she's like, yeah, I haven't had the time with my day job to put into building my website and writing my blog articles. And I'm like, how much do you charge for life coaching a month? She's like, well, $1,000. I'm like, so would $10,000 a month mean you could leave the day job? She's like, well, yeah, obviously. So you need 10 clients. You just need 10 clients. You don't need a
Yeah.
big marketing machine. You don't need a
Yeah.
big website, a big lead funnel, paid ads. Like you need to go like talk to people, be willing to pick up
Right.
the phone call, spend an hour or two a day, go messaging people, go
Yeah.
talking to people, go get 10. When you have
Yeah.
10,000 a month in revenue, now you can invest in marketing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You can
When
still
you
be
break it
private.
down, I know, but it's numbers and people get scared by numbers. That's the other fascinating thing about it as well too. I mean, fortunately, I'm married to a CPA, and so it's like he is my numbers guy and he keeps me legit on numbers, that's for sure. But the truth, I mean, it's like you've got to be able to look to break it down. Okay, if my revenue, if I want to make $50,000 a month, what is that actually going to look like? For me. And so, and when you, there are $10,000 a month. I mean, but when you break it down, it doesn't seem so daunting and overwhelming. Whereas the
Yeah.
big number seems really, really big, but you lead up into it.
And
Yeah,
most
I'm
people
with you.
can't even handle it. And so that was probably my biggest revelation when I first got into digital marketing was like people were like, I need more leads, and they would hire us and they'd be like, okay, let's get more leads. And then we started having problems where they were like, stop, we can't handle more leads. And it's like, but this is what you said you wanted. And it was like, then I had to step back and be like, okay, so let's have some realistic conversations before we start marketing.
Right,
How many new
right.
leads can you realistically handle? How big do you
Yeah.
want to grow
Oh,
your
so
business? Because
true.
if marketing
Yep.
works,
Yeah.
It's hard to turn
Yeah.
it off, especially organic
Oh, yeah.
marketing. You start building an
Yeah.
audience, and now all of a sudden you've got 75% of your audience that's mad because you can't take them on as a client. You have a wait list that's 2 years long. Like, if
Yeah.
marketing works, you have a problem if you're not trying to scale your business. And I kept
Oh,
running into people
absolutely.
that were just like, oh, I want to scale my business. I want to scale my business, but not really. They're like, I just really want like 5 more really good clients. Like, I don't want to hire a team. I want to do this myself. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you don't really need to hire me. You need to have me maybe consult with you, but you don't need a marketing machine. You need a little bit of
Right.
advice on not wasting your money in the wrong areas, and that's kind of what you need.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
yeah.
revelation to me that people
Yeah.
really just they don't understand, they don't think about if we market and the impact that's going to have on your business and on your life. And they're like, oh well, so and so said I need to do this, I need to make lead generators, I need to redo my website, I need to host a challenge, I need to do a webinar,
Oh
I
my
need to.
God.
And it's like, but do you really? Is that really the
Yeah.
best use of your
No.
time? Like, those things are way more
Yeah.
complicated than people realize, and they just feel like they
Yeah.
need to do them.
Well, and it's just go back to the basics. One thing that I've done myself here within the past few months is scale back on social media. I still have a social media presence. I mean, I have a graphic design. I push stuff out daily so people, when they come to my Instagram page or they go to LinkedIn or whatever, they can scroll like many countless times and get tons of educational content. So I'm good. Like I've developed that. When people hear about me and they go search me, they're going to find all sorts of stuff about me. But at the end of the day, I do how I get my people is through in-person events, and just being available, picking up the phone, go. I play golf. And so it's like, who can I go play golf with? I mean, who can I go network with? I was in Miami at a big conference last week and picked up a few people that I'm starting to work with now too. And it's just that's how I lead generate. And so it's so important. I tell my clients all the time, it's like, especially I work with professional people. So I've got a commercial mortgage broker that I work with, and she specifically works in multifamily. It's super, super niche market, right? And some of my lawyers that I work with, very, very niche markets there as well too. And it's like you just want to have content out there to where when people come and find you, you're legit. You they can watch your videos and see that you know what the heck you're talking about, and it's developing that know, like, and trust factor to where when they hop on the phone with you, they're already 80% sold as it is anyway. They just want to hear from you, you know?
Yep.
And so just have a presence, be intentional about where's your highest and best use of time, effort, energy, and resources. And that's where you tap into. Because you're right. So many people are it's like they're just checking the box to say, okay, I've got the social media. Okay, check, done. I sent out the email marketing, check, done. Okay, well, are we being intentional with the messaging? Are we being intentional with the communication that we're sending out? Are we actually connecting with the people that are going to get us where we want to be, with our business and that kind of thing too? And that's a huge part of it as well. I mean, at least it is for me.
Yep. Oh no, I 100% agree. It was like that was a revelation I had probably 4 or 5 years ago. We started doing more work with other marketing agencies, like they were hiring us
Yeah.
out to do stuff for them. And it was like you would ask them, where are you getting most of your business? Like, oh, word of mouth and events. I'm like, okay, do you help your clients with word of mouth and events? Like, is that part of the market? No, we do blog articles, we do social. And I'm like, so the number
Oh,
one way that you get business, you have not figured out how to help your clients who are
yeah.
also getting business the same way right now
Yeah.
amplify that. Like, it just makes so much
Oh,
sense. I was like, that was where
sister,
the idea for our
preach.
accelerator got born, because we're working with,
Hmm.
that's our slight difference for the audience members. We talked about this ahead of time. I work primarily with like coaches, consultants, agencies, people that deliver services, where like she's working more with like lawyers, with financial advisors, with people that are, so it's a little bit slightly different.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I mean, your people know, like most people assume they know what your clients do, where
Yeah.
nobody knows what my clients do. And so there's still messaging challenges on both sides, which is an
There
interesting thing
are.
to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was part of why we started doing Accelerator, was to literally check off the boxes. It's like in 12 weeks, let's just check off the boxes that make you look credible online. And now let's work on just amplifying, get you at more
Yeah.
events, get you doing more
Oh,
podcast
yeah.
interviews, get you, because
Yeah.
you get clients that way. And it's like, you could write 1,000 blog articles, or you can write enough to make Google and the people that look you up see you as an authority on a topic.
Oh,
Like, it
absolutely.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be like infinity and beyond. Eventually, you're going to repeat yourself. There's only so much you can talk about. Like, you're not going to write
Absolutely.
5,000 blog articles. You need 100 that are really good on all the
Right.
things, and then you're good.
Right.
Might not even be
Yeah.
100, depending on what they're talking
Yeah.
about. 30 might do you.
Oh,
You know.
it's so true. And Christina, it just made me think about, I have a client, a commercial mortgage broker that I work with. And now that the world is opening back up, she is a fabulous speaker, especially in the commercial real estate, sector. And she gets invited to speak at conferences. And so she's already been to, I think, two already this spring, and she has another three lined up in June. And so part of my working with her is, okay, what's your unique value proposition? What's your special messaging that we want to make sure that people who hear you, they walk away knowing, okay, she's the girl who does X, Y, and Z, right? But then also when she goes to these conference events and she has the opportunity to speak to thousands of people, how can we maximize her opportunity at that
Yep.
event? What can we do to get people in her email pipeline? I mean, this woman, for as niche as her industry is, her email list is is bigger than most coaches that I have worked with before in the past,
Yep.
because she's so intentional about leveraging that time, maximizing it. And we develop material to get these people to sign up on our email list, and get her blog posts that we produce twice a month and that kind of thing. I mean, it's just, but that's, you love, again, highest and best use. I mean, I swear I preach that all the time. What's your highest and best use? And not everybody is going to be in person. Not everybody's going to be a speaker who goes on a big stage, right? But you figure out, again, based on what feels best to you, what is going to be best for your personality, and then we fill in the gaps is what we do, because it's not going to be the same for everyone.
I mean, we talked about that a little bit before the call too, even like different video strategies, because it's like some people are great getting on a stage, they can talk, they're engaging, they go, some people do like I do, where I just turn into like a librarian or like the worst teacher you ever had in elementary school, and you're trying to stay awake. But like in an interview format, I'm engaging. I've got somebody to play off of. Like if I can play off of
Right.
somebody, I'm good. I'm great. I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So interviewing versus or being in a situation, like even when I was teaching in person for like the local chamber and stuff like that, and I'd host workshops, I had to like start the thing by asking different people in the audience to tell me about them. That was the only way I could do
Yes.
it. Otherwise, I was presenting dry. So it's like it really
Yeah.
is, what works for you and just finding it out. I
Oh,
mean, it's so
oh yeah.
tricky to figure it out sometimes. Like,
Well, and I think also it's, I think a lot of us, in fact, gosh, high powered women that I work with, they still struggle with imposter syndrome and what are other people going to think about me too.
yeah,
Like they have those. I was at a conference last week with women leaders who C suite who were operating $500 million corporations down to startups. They all feel the same things. Do people really want to listen to me? What am I going to say that's really going to make a difference, change the room, whatever, and it's just, you have to lean into what feels best to you, because if you're not at your highest and best use, like what you just said, with, that you have to have somebody there to be able to play off of. I totally get that. I can walk into a room and talk for hours and just kind of and get a feel for how people are, their body language and that kind of, I mean, that's my special sauce, and so
yeah,
it's just, you really do have to figure out, okay, what's going to feel good to you, because if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel good to you, you're not going to do it well, and it's not going to land well with your perfect client either, and so
yeah.
it's going to be all for naught. And so I'd rather use our precious time doing things that really light us up and feel authentic to us, because that way the message will land so much better if you do it that way versus trying to force it to happen.
Yeah, and you attract some of the right clients. Like I think even looking at the type of clients that you like to work with, I think it's maybe easier to understand than it is with coaches. Like if you look at like a lawyer, for example, you would think, oh, they practice this kind of law. Like maybe they practice divorce law. So anybody and everybody who needs a divorce should work with that lawyer, but that's not true. It's just not true. And they
Not
don't want to work
true.
with anybody and everybody that needs a divorce. They want the
Yeah.
opportunity to choose which clients they take and
Yeah.
which ones they don't. And I think
Oh,
it's easier for
100%.
people to understand that scenario than it is. But like when you turn around to like my side of the fence with coaches, like, oh, I can help anyone with a business, anyone with a business. It's like, yeah, but can you really? Should you
Yeah.
really? Do you want
Should
to
you?
really?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think the same thing holds true also. I mean, I'm just, as you said that, it made me think about two lawyers that I've worked with before in the past. They were both family lawyers. So they deal with divorce, child custody, visitation, all of that, guardianship, that kind of thing. And one of their personality was, she was very much, I'm just going to call it a bulldog. I mean, she called herself that as well too. She was just kind of a bulldog, you know, tough, which, you know, there's a part of me, it's kind of like, well, if I needed somebody like that to go in and just completely be tough and court, I mean, she's probably your girl. The other one had more of a holistic approach to divorce, and, you know, how can we provide, if a woman hasn't worked in 20 years, you know, she would actually, you know, hook her up with a career counselor to be able to help her figure out how she was going to maintain, you know, get revenue in the door and that kind of thing. She had connections with, you know, grief counseling with grief counselors, and she would, you know, get children in and get them in grief counseling. And so her approach was entirely different than my bulldog. Right. And
Yep.
so, and the messaging styles are very different too, because they both appeal to very different types of people. And the good news is that there's so many, so many lawyers, so many coaches, so many marketing agencies out there. You're going to find somebody who's going to land and resonate with you no matter who they are.
Yeah, and I think that
But your
advice kind of works
messages
on
matter.
both sides for like, or the types of clients we like to work with to really start thinking about, your niching. How can you speak to the right people? How can you like work with the people that give you energy instead of taking your energy? But then on the other
Yeah,
side, like if you're shopping for people, go watch stuff. Go see what they do. Go watch their podcast episodes. Go
absolutely.
watch their videos on YouTube. Go watch recordings where they've been speaking. If you have an opportunity to go sit down and watch them speak in person, go do that, because like
Yeah.
they're going to be happier, you're going to be happier, and you're both going to get the results you're looking for if you like working together. If you
Oh,
give each other
absolutely.
energy instead of taking energy, like it's just going to
Yeah.
work so much better. So I think that's such important advice from both sides of the fence. Like, don't just go hire a marketing agency because they seem impressive. Go hire them because you fit.
Yes. I mean, I swear I talk about this on video a lot. It's like, don't hire the marketing agency because they have the big flashy name and the downtown office suite, and they play golf at your country
Oh,
club
the
and
big
all of
name
that.
clients that are nothing like you. Like they're like, "Oh, I've worked for AT&T and Dell and what." Okay, but you're like a two-person business. You're not
Yes.
Dell. They don't know how to work with
Vast.
you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I was working with an interior designer, who a high-end interior designer here in North Texas, and she does beautiful work. Like she's amazing. She's a creative genius, you know, and but it's just her and two other people, like part-timers. So she's the only full-time employee and two other part-timers, right? And so we were talking about marketing and that kind of thing, and she was just very adamant about ads. And she was just like, well, my
Yep.
sister-in-law is, I don't know, VP of marketing for a big, huge retail. I'm not going to say the name, but big,
Yep.
big, huge retail, like 500 million plus, right? And she's like, and she says that I need to be, you know, doing Facebook and Instagram ads. And I was like, did she tell you how much you would have to spend each month in order for you to be seen by all of the people that you want to be seen by? Because she wants to be a regional decorator and all of this stuff. And she was like, no, we didn't really talk about that. I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that you're probably going to have to spend around $3,000 to $5,000 a month just on the
Yeah.
ads to get the results that you're talking about wanting to get. And she was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. And I was like, yeah, your sister-in-law works for a big, huge, and large $500 million plus corporation.
Yeah.
Big dynamic difference, you know, in budgets and type of services that you provide versus she's selling a product. I mean, like, so different, so different. So don't get hung up on just because the big, huge, and large corporations are doing X, Y, and Z and hire the certain ad agency or whatever. That, in fact, I'm just gonna say it, more times than not, that's not going to be a good match for you if you're a small business. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not.
Oh, 100% agreed. And the other thing to
Oh,
consider in those situations is you are their smallest client, probably. Like,
oh
if they
yeah,
run out of time, if they get behind, if they're stretched a little too thin, where's their
so
time gonna
true.
go? You know? I
Right.
mean,
Not
it's
to
not
you.
gonna be to you.
Yeah. Not to
They can
you.
afford to
Yeah.
lose you. They're not really trying as hard as they should be trying to keep you. So,
Yeah.
like, that's the flip side of it too. And I think it's just so important, right? To really make sure that there's a personality fit. You want somebody who's actually
Oh
going
my
to care
gosh.
about you. And it doesn't matter.
Right.
The other thing's competition, because it's the other like pushback I hear a lot. Well, I don't want somebody who's working with all of my competitors. I'm like, yeah, you absolutely do.
Yes, you do.
You know, because
Yes,
like
you
you just
do.
gave that example a second ago with the two lawyers, that it's like, okay, on the surface, yes, you're competitors. But reality is, no, you're really not, because there's different
You're
scenarios where you're
not.
right for different people. And if,
Yeah.
both of those people were working with you, so you understood, you could see both. So what's going to happen? This one's going to stand out
Right.
better in that market for this people, and this one's going to stand out better in the same market for these people. And you're working for two
Absolutely.
competing lawyers, potentially even in the same city, going after the same types of clients, but there's enough business to go around, unfortunately.
There's enough. Yeah. There is, but there's enough to go around no matter what industry you're in. I'm a
Yeah,
firm believer in that as well too. You know,
I am
it's just
too.
like, again, I tell everybody, it's like, I may not be your cup of tea. That's fine. I am plenty of people's cup of tea,
Yep.
and that's good. I want the right people.
Well, and I mean, for most of us, if we did get like every potential client we could possibly get, we couldn't handle it. We
No.
just couldn't handle it. Like, I don't care how good you are at scaling your business, hiring
Yeah.
your people, managing your people. It maybe in like 15 years you could handle 10% after you've
Yeah.
like scaled up a lot and you've hit big level people, but like, is that where you
Yeah.
want to be? Is that where you want to go? Most people say no. Like,
Right.
most small business owners
Yeah.
still want to be able to have conversations with their clients. You
Yes.
grow to about a
Yeah.
50, 60 person team. That's kind of that's about as high as you want to go for most small business owners.
Yeah.
They make really good
Yeah.
livings at
Oh
that
yeah.
level, and
Right.
you know, I don't
No,
know,
I
just so many like good
completely
things to think
agree.
about.
You know, it's all about the relationships. I mean, we've heard it. It's almost cliche at this point, but I think it bears repeating. I mean, it's all about the relationships. We want to be, in partnership and, marriages, relationships with people that connect with us. We want to have friends that connect with us. I mean, and we definitely want to have clients that connect with us as well, too, or it's just not worth it, in my opinion. It's like, I've
Now
got other things to do.
that applies to your digital marketing and stuff too. Like, if you've got people on your email list, those are relationships. They're
Yeah.
not generic emails and names on your email list. Every single person that receives your email is somebody that you would want to enjoy talking to if you could.
Yeah.
And you should like
Absolutely.
create an environment where they want to talk to you. And it's like, I think we forget that sometimes when we're just blasting marketing messages out, or putting out social posts, or putting out emails, or putting out videos, and we don't necessarily think about the fact there's a relationship on the other end that we would like to have.
Right.
It's not just
Yeah.
that we want to push them into a sell, but how can I turn you into somebody that's a raving fan, somebody that I would enjoy
Yeah.
hanging out with, somebody that if I
Yes.
saw you in person at an event, it'd be like, hey, I saw you.
Yeah.
You replied to my email the other day. I started doing the
Yeah.
weirdest thing. I'm on all of these email lists, right? Because I love seeing what comes out. I subscribe to way too many email lists, way too many email
Me
lists.
too. Yes.
I started replying to the generic, just blast all email addresses. I just started replying to being
Ooh.
like, hey, I really like this bit that you did. That's really cool. And they're like, hi.
Oh my
And it's like,
gosh. Yeah.
they're just like, holy
What's
crap,
happening?
somebody replied.
Yeah.
What's happening now? It's like, how many
Yeah.
emails do you send that nobody ever replies to?
I
Like,
know.
it's
That's
an eye opener. I have
brilliant.
been doing that for the last couple of weeks, and I am telling the conversations that I have had and the connections that I've been able to make with people that would normally never really give little old me the time of day, because I'm probably one of like 5,000 people on their email list that hit reply.
Yeah. That
So
is
it's
hysterical.
interesting.
But
It's a fun little
wow.
experiment. Just like try that for a few days, see what happens. It's been interesting.
I'm
Um,
gonna do that. I'm gonna do that is
I've
brilliant.
had some of the most fantastic conversations since I started doing that. It's just been like, they're like, "Oh my god, you're a
I
real
love
human."
it.
It's like, "Yeah, hi,
I
human
am.
here.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Are you doing good? How can I help you today?" Which is another interesting thing. Like, even your software vendors and stuff like that, they send you email newsletters. it's amazing how many like beta groups, alpha groups, things like that I've been able to participate in just because I have replied. So, oh, that's a really
Right.
awesome new feature. I've been looking forward to that one. Thank you so much for releasing that. And they're like, hi,
Yeah.
can we talk to
Yeah.
you? You're a real human using our
Interesting.
stuff. We would love to talk to you. And like, yeah, of course. I know one girl, she did that exact strategy. And now she gets to like speak at events for Meta, for ManyChat, for things
Oh
like
my
that
gosh.
because she does that all the time. She's just constantly like giving them
That's
feedback. She'll make
brilliant.
the effort to do a Loom video and send that to them. And
Yeah.
so now they're like, they know who she is. You
Wow.
know, it's like you got these big companies
That's
that know who
brilliant.
she is. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
think about how you could use that as a marketing strategy. Like people are
Yeah.
going and putting out generic email lists, go sign up for it. And then you're the only person replying. So you can get conversations you wouldn't normally be able to get. So, I don't know. That was a weird one.
That
That's my little
yeah.
tip of the day. It's been interesting. It's been fun. I know I have kept you
Yeah.
for so long because we had so much like chatter before we hit record.
I know. I
And now
love
we've been
it.
recording for like 30. So I want to give you a chance to tell people how to find you. So we've talked a little bit about what you do, but in your own words, like who do
Yeah.
you like to work with? What do you do? How do they find you?
Yeah. So I tell everybody, I work with professional business owners. Like Christina said earlier, that I've worked with lawyers, commercial mortgage brokers, medical professionals, interior designers. But I also, interestingly enough, I work with some very large nonprofit organizations too that need help in the messaging and marketing space with complex terminology. I'm a complex girl. So when you have a very, very complex message that needs to be communicated out, I'm that person who can take very highly technical, complex things and make it easily understandable for your clients to understand. So I help people scale their businesses through executive level strategy, communication tactics, and I do it with the DISC profile. Is what I do with all my private clients is walk them through the DISC, and then we develop a profitable marketing strategy based on what feels best for you from a messaging perspective. So I typically hang out a lot on Instagram, Heather underscore Lisle, Lis, as in Sam, Le. I'm on LinkedIn at Heather Lisle Co. And I'm on Facebook as well too. I'm just not on Facebook as much. So Heather Lisle with the number one at the end. Heather Lisle number one on Facebook, but mostly Instagram is where I hang out. So
I'll make sure I
find me
drop the
there.
links. So wherever you're watching this show from, there will be links somewhere around the video, around the audio, wherever you're at. So make sure you go check those out. And I just can't
Perfect.
underscore that enough, especially for the types of clients that you're working for, that it's so important to differentiate your messaging and to really
Oh my
not go after
gosh.
anybody, everybody, to not be afraid to stand out. I mean, you've shared several really great examples. So I think, like, if you're listening to this and you're somebody in that list of people that she just mentioned that she likes to work with and you're different, I think you're her perfect client. So correct me if I'm
Oh
wrong
my
on that.
gosh. Oh yeah. I mean, and real estate brokers. That's been another interesting area too. It's like how many ads do you see with lawyers and real estate people
Yep.
standing like this, with their arms crossed across their chest? And it's like you're not telling me how you're different from everybody else out there.
Yep.
We have to make you different in order for the right people to want to work with you, because we don't want to waste our time with people who are going to suck our energy, not pay our bills, and waste our time. Like nobody wants that. So
Yep. So
anyway.
I love that. If you've got if you're a little picky on the types of clients you want to take, if you're a little bit different and you know it, like you should definitely reach out to Heather. I think that would be a really smart move.
Absolutely. I'd love
And
it. Yeah.
yeah, I know I'm the same way. So if you're like a coach or somebody else that all of that resonated with you, but you're more in like the coaching agency realm, hi. But yeah,
You're the
I think that's
girl.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just two totally different markets, but with the same problems. So I think it's so
Yes.
cool. And this has been such a great conversation because there's so much overlap, but not at
Yeah.
the same time. It's so neat.
Hey, we can learn from each other. I'm a huge
Yeah.
believer in that as well too. So anyway, thank you so much for having me on. It's been so fun and lovely, and it's been a great start to my day. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
same here. This has been an absolutely fantastic conversation today. Thank you for coming on the show. So, entrepreneurs,
Absolutely.
guys, this is your call to take action. Head over to etatoday.zone, subscribe, and keep learning from amazing people like Heather that are sharing all kinds of actionable advice. Until next time, bye.